Hello and happy Tuesday, and welcome to Live with It's All About Choices, Nutrition, and Weight Loss. And I am excited to share with you this morning or this afternoon. So, those who are tuning in live, I thank you for tuning in every week with me. I really look forward to having this time with you to share and to, hopefully to move you forward in the direction that you like to go into. And for those who are listening to the replay, I thank you for pausing and taking time out of your schedule to listen in and grab some nutrition news for your mind, your body, and your soul. And so today we are having one of my up close and personal segments with our very special guest, Miss Sharissa Delgado. And she is bringing us greetings all the way from Sacramento, California. So hello, Sharissa, how are you today?
I am doing pretty good.
Awesome. And so for you all, you are in for a treat. And so I'm super excited to have her here. And I'm thankful that she's going to share her amazing story, her amazing journey. And I thank her for taking time out of her schedule in order to do that. And so many of our listeners, you will be able to relate to today's topic. And so her story, her journey is titled How Healthier Eating Habits Eliminated Her Joint Inflammation. It controls depression without medications. And hey, she had the bonus of even losing 15 pounds in the process. And so as you are tuning in, definitely chime in and just let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you can relate to this topic, anything with inflammation or anything with anxiety or depression, definitely tune in and just say, hey, I relate. And so while people are tuning in, I'm going to get my windows set up because I'm excited that we are live with this segment. So as you guys ask questions, I am able to see who you are and I'm able to refer to you by your name. So just give me one more second to set up one more window and we are good to go here. Let's see here. One more window. And there we go. All right. So we are good to go. So as you are tuning in, definitely chime in and say hello. And for those who don't know me, my name is Sandra Goltry, and I am a registered dietitian, and I'm also a certified personal trainer. And so simply, I just try to find healthier ways, fun ways, the non-dieting ways to just help you to reach your goals by taking a total body approach. Okay. That's simple. And so if you have ever struggled with making healthier food choices on a regular basis, or maybe you're not eating enough during the day. So those are some things that we really try to address. And so I encourage engagement. So as we are going through our conversation today, definitely feel free to chime in. Okay. And I will check periodically to see if people are chiming in. All right. And so I do see a message. Hey, Leslie is on. And she totally relates as it relates to the inflammation. So, and Leslie is tuning in from Orlando. So yes, thank you for chiming in, Leslie, and thank you for tuning in live. And so Sharissa and I we actually connected really for the first time in about 2016. And we participated in a couple of boot camps together, and they were online because I'm in Florida. She's in California. And we continued to travel on the same similar online workout circle for years. But we didn't know it. We didn't know it back then. And then our paths crossed again in 2020. So we're talking 4 years later, where Sharissa joined my very first launch of Crush Your Sugar Cravings, the 3-day challenge back in 2020. So this is when we were on the beginnings of our pandemic. And I have no doubt that you will find her story very impactful as she shares a long-time struggle and how both Crushing the Sugar Cravings, and she's also participated in Crush Your Sugar Cravings. She's also participated in Body Reboot, and how they changed her life and how they impacted her eating style. I mean, she was eating healthy, but it took things to another level for her. And so it really impacted her life. And so I'm very grateful that she's here to share. And so now we are going to hear from Sharissa herself. And if you can share, tell us, what your line of work is and what do you do for a living?
So I'm a piano teacher. And so I teach privately. I teach small groups and private lessons. And, since the pandemic, I've been working from home, doing remote lessons with my students, which has been pretty interesting, but a lot of fun. And, I something I'd always done, but during the pandemic, I ended up having to go full time online.
Mm-hmm. And so if anybody looking for a piano teacher, she's awesome. So I have taking on the task of being one of her students, and so I've really been enjoying that. So I played played clarinet growing up, but I kind of put that to the side, and for over 20 years, and so now I'm revitalizing that music love that I had. So if you're looking for a piano teacher, let me know. I'll hook you up. And so we will start to address kind of some of the major areas. So let's start with tell us about your challenges with inflammation and some of the limitations that you experience in your day-to-day life.
So it was actually something that I had been really kind of unaware of how much it was affecting my life. But I did have pain in my shoulders um, for many years, to the point where it was difficult sometimes and painful to wash my hair, um, or even getting dressed, reaching behind my back, things like that. And there were times that it got so bad that I even went to the doctor and had you know MRIs done of my shoulders to try and see if they could find out what was going on in there. I do have some shoulder issues, um, but it wasn't anything that I felt like I could fix. So it was just sort of the way my shoulders were made up, and it was something that I hadn't even considered as being, due to inflammation, the amount of pain that I was dealing with on a regular basis. And I think it had come on so slowly over time that I just sort of dealt with it day to day and didn't realize how much it was actually affecting me until I started working with you.
Oh wow! And how many years would you say you've been battling with it?
Oh, probably. I would say maybe even 15 years
Okay,
had
okay.
been affecting me. And in the beginning, it wasn't so bad. I would do my workouts, and my shoulders would kind of pop or whatever when I moved in a certain way and be, painful. I just kind of knew there were certain activities I couldn't do, like yoga was always really hard for me. So I never, my mom's a yoga instructor, and, she's always trying to get me to come and do her classes, but it was so painful. I just was like, I don't think I can do that with the way my shoulders are made up. I totally thought it was, just, um, something about the way that the structure of my shoulder. Um, yeah. And so, as I got older, it got
Mhm.
more painful and started affecting, like I say, the way that I, would wash my hair in the shower, or the way that I would, put my bra on behind my back. I was looking for front closure bras because it was just so painful to put mine off and on and things like that. Anything with my hands above my head was, fixing the curtains, or something in the house, to the point where even doing the dishes, sometimes would really be painful.
Wow, a lot of things that we take for granted, we don't even think about things like that. Were you ever on any medications for it, or did the doctor
Um,
recommend that?
I just kind of took ibuprofen, and I just tried to stay away from those sorts of activities. I'd have somebody help me do something if it was, painful for me, or, I just knew there were certain things that I couldn't do myself because it hurt.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
yeah.
wow.
But yeah, I did end up taking a lot of ibuprofen, and, uh, like icing my shoulders and doing things like that. There were times where it would get so bad that I would just, like, I'd have an arm in a sling to
Mm,
keep the movement to a minimum, because, just my day to day activities. I reach over the piano a lot. And so, reaching out over the piano to correct a student or something like that would irritate it. So
mm.
by the end of the day, it was really painful. And so I'd have to, keep it immobile for a while until, like, the inflammation went down, and take ibuprofen, and,
Wow, wow. So that really impacted your day to day. I mean, sounds like it was just painful on more days than not.
yeah.
Wow. Now let's share with me a bit about you have history with mood and depression, and so how has that affected you over the years, and why you chose not to take medications for it?
Yeah. So I started having depression in high school, but I didn't realize that's what it was until I was probably in my 20s and I was diagnosed. And so I went to therapy, and the first thing the therapist, or the psychologist asked was if I wanted to take some medications. And although I'm not against medication, and I know there are a lot of people that it's essential for their lives to take medication, I just felt like at the time I thought I'm going to try to take care of it on my own first, and if I can't take care of it, then then I would consider the medication. But I didn't want to resort to that until I had tried some other things first.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And how would you say it's affected your life? Did it impact your day to day as much as the inflammation?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I was in therapy for many years, which was helpful. It helped me to identify, sort of where it was coming from, and symptom of bigger problems. And so I worked at trying to alleviate those problems. But there were times where, it just overtakes you. I think of it as sort of the waves lapping at the shore. And then, at a certain point, if you're not paying attention, the wave just comes and swallows you up and pulls you in to that depression. And then you have to fight your way back out again. And so I did my best just in, trying to get good sleep, trying to eat well, trying to stay fit. One of the best ways to get good sleep, I feel, is to, get good exercise. So, all of these things, and kind of just, they help each other. If you're sleeping well, then, working out is easier. If you're working out regularly, then sleeping is easier. And, and also the diet, of course, if you're eating well, then you have more energy, you get to work out, more comfortably and all of that. So, so I would try my best to stay on top of those things. But, I'm sure like everybody knows those things are all really difficult to do. So, there are times when I wasn't as good at it, or, it's hard when you're doing it on your own. That's another thing that I found, that, you're just sort of doing the best you can and hoping that it helps. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And you just kind of, do the best you can.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, was it difficult managing? Like, did you find it stressful trying to figure out, eating this way, exercising, rest, did you find it stressful?
Yeah, I definitely did. And then, of course, when the depression overtakes you, those are the last things that you want to do,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I would either, and, having anxiety as well, sometimes it's hard for me to get good rest. Sometimes all I want to do is sleep, and then, of course, like emotional eating. So those sorts of things. And my depression at times was, so bad it would be hard to go to work for days at a time. And then, sometimes it's just managing it on the daily basis, just not feeling great and trying to make the best show of feeling good and putting on that happy face and going about my life. And then other times it just was so overwhelming that it was hard to even leave the house.
Yeah. And then if that wasn't enough, the inflammation and then the depression. So now you have the weight journey. So share with us about your journey with weight loss.
Yeah. So, all of those things would affect my weight, and my weight has always gone up and down. When I was younger, I was a professional dancer. And so, I was very fit and knew how to eat healthy. And, so these are habits that I grew up with. My mom stayed home, so she had the luxury of being able to cook all our meals, and she was great about nutrition. So I learned well early on. But all of these things affect, it's like, it's hard to work out when your shoulders are so inflamed that, lifting weights is difficult, or even, doing cardio. There were times where even just the weight of my shoulder in the socket felt like it was painful. So, jumping up and down or doing whatever was irritating it. And, and then, of course, and then also sleeping was difficult because, laying on my side, laying on my shoulder, if it was really inflamed and painful, would wake me up a lot, or I couldn't go to sleep because it's uncomfortable. And, and so all of these things would affect would affect me in a way that, I wasn't able to stay on top of my weight and keep it, keep it down in a healthy place. And so I've struggled with that,
Mm-hmm.
over the years, going up and down. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if anybody has any questions or comments, definitely chime in. I'm checking periodically. And so thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is a lot, a lot of things to deal with. And what are some of the things that you tried to lose weight? Like if you tried any specific diets or like what are some things that you specifically did?
Um, yeah, I feel as though, like everybody, you think about, the things that affect your weight, and you try different things that you think might be helpful, like cutting out certain foods that maybe you tend to eat too much of. Like I really enjoy breads and pastas, and then, I of course like ice cream, like everybody does. And so, I would try and cut these things out of my diet. And, I at times have worked with personal trainers who would put me on like training type diets where, you're just eating the same thing every day. It may be healthy, like lean meats and, brown rice and vegetables, but, day in and day out eating the same thing, of course, is like, just feels like a chore after a while, and you feel deprived. And then when you go to eat something you're going to enjoy, you end up going overboard, and then gaining all the weight back that you'd been working so hard to, and feeling deprived to get rid of. And so I feel like it was kind of a back and forth sort of a thing, for me in that way.
Mhm. Okay. And how would you rate your relationship with food in the past?
My relationship with food. So, that, like I said, I grew up eating pretty healthy, um, but I feel like I'm definitely an emotional eater.
Mhm.
So, I would eat pretty healthy most of the time, but if I was feeling, if my depression was not doing well, or, something was going on in my life that I felt stressed or
Mhm.
emotional about, I would turn to comfort foods. And comfort foods, in my life, I mean, I guess for everybody it's different, but, I'm looking at ice cream or candy or, things that, regular foods too, but, like the pastas and the breads and
Yeah.
things that
Mhm.
just, taste good. And I feel like another thing that I would do is, overeat. So overeat because, you eat too much, and you can kind of just sit down, and it like brings your energy level down. I think maybe if you have anxiety or depression, sometimes you just want to, I don't know, like dig yourself into that hole and
Mhm.
relax.
Mhm.
And I feel like, instead of eating foods that energize you, you just eat foods that,
Mhm.
make you sluggish, and
Yeah.
that's how
Mhm.
you're feeling, and that's not.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like with portions, like did you have challenges with portions? Like for some people they eat way too little on a regular basis, for some people they eat way too much. I mean, where do you think you fell in that spectrum?
Yeah, I think just on a regular basis, I tend to not eat often. And even my boyfriend sometimes would call me and say, have you eaten? Have you eaten today? Because he knows I would just get busy with my day and don't eat. So there are, I mean, I'd say more often than not, I would eat once or twice a day. And, just because I'm busy, and I don't want to take the time and stop, or I don't even realize how hungry I am until I get off work. And then by the time I finally sit down to eat something, I'm so famished that, of
Yeah.
course, I want to eat something delicious instead of something nutritious.
Yeah.
And then I overeat because my eyes are just bigger than my stomach because I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like a pattern of mine. I would not eat all day. And then at the end of the day, when it's time to sit down and relax, I would just, eat my whole kitchen and then go to bed.
Yes. Yes. Very relatable, huh? So those who are on, I know that we all can relate to that. We just get busy and get busy. And the main reason why I say set your phone, set your phone. I know you're not used to eating, set your phone to stop you because we just get so caught up. Um, and share about the naps. This is when Sharissa and I really reconnected when we were in Crush Your Sugar Cravings, and she had posted about not wanting to sit on the couch because she
Well, I was working at home at that point. So, the pandemic had just, exploded, and everybody was just staying home. I was trying not to go out as, very often. And then I was working from home. So I had, we didn't know how long it was going to last. So
right.
I thought, maybe a month or two or a couple of weeks, or I don't know. And so I had converted my living room into my studio so I could just teach virtually. And so I was kind of just working in the middle of my house. And so I would, teach a couple of classes. And, I think that part of it too was, because of the pandemic, you wanted to buy enough food that you didn't have to go out all the time because the lines were long, and, you're trying to just limit exposure. And so you'd buy foods that you could just keep, and maybe not the healthiest foods, frozen dinners and things like this that you could just throw in the freezer, and you didn't have to worry about buying groceries again for a couple of weeks or whatever. And so, and then the stress of everything that was happening, and probably eating junk food more often. And so I would be working and have, maybe a little bit of a break between students. And I remember at one point just thinking to myself, I can't even sit on the sofa because I know that if I sit on the couch, that my eyes are going to close and I'm just going to fall asleep. So if I sit on the couch, I'm going to have to set an alarm or something. But I know that if I fall asleep, I'm going to wake up groggy and I'll barely be able to get through work, because I was just so, I just had, my energy was so low. I felt like I could go to sleep at any time. If I relaxed or laid down, I would just fall asleep instantly.
Yeah.
I was so exhausted all the time.
Yeah. Yes. And that really is a combination of all the things that you had been dealing with, because you wasn't getting good sleep because it was uncomfortable. You were in pain, and so you just had all these things going on. And then, of course, we're having our moments, when we're eating, then all that weighs in. So you just kind of had it coming from all different directions. And so it's amazing. How food is medicine. And so it's just almost like you just have such a testament on how it impacts, one way or another. Because a lot of times people don't realize it, because like you said, with the inflammation, it just had become a part of life. You had become so used to it. It was so gradual that you didn't even really see it as anything wrong. This is just the way it is. And
which is crazy to, like, the way I described it just now, you'd think that would be something really stressful in your life. But to me, it was just life.
It was life. Yeah.
It wasn't until it went away that I was like, oh my gosh, that's not how life is supposed to be. I'm not just getting old, right?
Right.
But, well, this is what life is like at 40, I guess,
Right. And so let's talk about Crush Your Sugar Cravings. Okay. So share what made you sign up for it, and share, how you heard about the 3-day challenge.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, so we were, still in the pandemic, at the beginning of it. And I was, I guess it was through Emily. So one of the workout instructors that I was following on Facebook had posted one of your posts about the sugar cravings. And I know sugar is a big problem in my life. And so when I saw that, and it was just a 3-day thing, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool, looking for stuff to do because you're just kind of stuck at home, and looking for activities or hobbies or things to fill the time, or to focus on other than what's going on outside in the world. And so I saw that and I thought, I could do 3 days, 3 days isn't so bad, and just to see, I don't have anything to lose. I think my boyfriend was out of town for those couple of days. And so I thought, oh, I can do this. I don't have to worry about, someone else's, dietary, preferences or whatever. I can just do this. So I signed up, and I thought, this is going to be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, and this was literally this happened around July. So March of 2020 was when the world shut down,
Yeah.
and then July was when the challenge was released. And so we had no clue what we were in for. That we're
Yeah.
going into year three. We're still in this
Yeah.
pandemic. I mean, we were scared. We were still pretty scared back then, and people were sitting home, and it was just crazy. It was very uncertain times for sure. And well, how did this challenge differ from others that you participated in?
Well, I think so. One of the biggest things that I feel was made it so enjoyable and so easy was that not only were you educating us about, sugar in our lives and the cravings that we have and what causes them and all of those sorts of things, but you also gave us recipes of, you weren't just saying eat these certain things or don't eat these certain things. It was, I'm going to teach you how to eat this way. So you gave us recipes, and I think that was like huge for me. Like I had gone to doctors. I had seen a doctor actually at this point. I had just had some major surgery. I had a tumor removed that had shown up in my adrenal gland and had been causing all kinds of problems in my body. And so my metabolism and my heart rate and everything was all over the place. And so I had just had that surgery. So everything was like calming back down.
Mhm.
And I was having issues like, with the inflammation and all these other things. And so I had actually gone to like sort of this alternative medicine doctor who, and he was like a kind of a chiropractor doctor where he would look at your body and tell you if you were deficient in areas or whatever. And he gave me a little pamphlet about healthy eating and what kind of foods to eat or ones to stay away from or things like that. And it was all pretty, sound advice, but it didn't give you any tools to do anything with it. So, it's like, yeah, don't eat, as much white bread, try and find whole grains and stuff like that. And it's like, well, when you're not used to eating that way, or when you don't know how to create a recipe without the things that you're used to eating or whatever, it just seemed impossible. So,
Mhm.
or it seemed like a big lifestyle change. But when you gave us recipes and were like, try to make this food that doesn't incorporate these sorts of foods or does incorporate these other kinds of foods, it's like, oh yeah, I can totally do this and it tastes great. And
Mhm.
like I can cook like this. Like I don't feel deprived of, my sourdough bread or my white pasta or my, whatever, because all of these foods are just wonderful and crave worthy and easily accessible. You know,
Mhm. Good, good. Yes, and what she's speaking of with recipes, they were like it was a 3-day meal plan. So pretty much it was 3 days: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, spread out throughout the day. So you pretty much had your roadmap and your grocery list and everything, and it broke everything down: when to make this, when to prep that, when for anybody who wasn't used to cooking. And so I'm glad that you found that helpful. And so what share some of your successes, by the end of the 3 days, like, share kind of
so
the
that was
difference.
ridiculously amazing. Only 3 days, and mind you, it wasn't like this happened at the end of the 3 days. It was like in the midst of those 3 days. Suddenly, my energy levels were like, higher than they had been. Like I could sit on the couch and not worry about my eyes closing or, and any of that. And the biggest thing was that the inflammation in my shoulders and my body was like just gone. Like I could wash my hair, I could get
Amazing.
dressed, you know, I could sleep at night because I could lay it on my shoulders. I could, you know, even just turning in bed, didn't seem like an effort. Like everything, it was just the pain was gone, and again, it just felt like wow, I had been dealing with this pain like it was just life, and now it's just completely gone, and I can't believe how much pain I was in, like on a regular basis, that affected my everyday life.
Yes, and those who are listening live, that is amazing. Like those are the testimonials that really touch my heart. they're bigger than the weight because you're talking about most of her adult life just dealing with something that was so normal to her. And I've had many clients that have had inflammation, and so she surprised me. When I saw that post, I was like, inflammation gone, in 3 days or 2 days. I mean,
Yeah.
I was amazed. And so it just shows nothing I did. It just shows the power of food. I mean, food is medicine. And so when it's done right, it really, really does the body good. And so that was really, really, I think that really motivated everybody who had participated in that because it was so powerful. And then you went to the next step with after Crush, and you participated in Body Reboot, and that was at that time it was 30 days. It was a 30-day group program. And so, what led you to take those steps?
Oh,
And
well, yeah, after those 3 days, and I was like, this is great. And the food was great. Like it was, just so delicious and easy to make. And then the other thing is that the way that you set up the food and the structure of the weekly meal plans and everything, your recipes were for just a few servings. And so the recipes were easy to make, they were quick, and it wasn't, like I live by myself. And so when I would cook at home, I would make, you make a pan of lasagna. Now you're eating lasagna every day, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next week, right? Because what are you going to do with all this lasagna or whatever it is, And these recipes, that was the other thing that kind of blew my mind, was that I could make this recipe and I'd get maybe 2 or 3 servings. And so my diet became much more varied. Which was really fun. And eating lots of different fruits and vegetables. Generally I feel like probably everybody who cooks goes through like ruts where it's like you're just, you always buy the staples, and you just make whatever you make with those staples, and you don't think about other fruits and vegetables or whatever, just because it's not in your repertoire or whatever. And so I felt like I was leveling up. I was, getting all these great recipes and able to make, lots of different things throughout the week. And so it was fun. Like I couldn't wait each day to like have lunch or have dinner because, I was excited to have the new thing or, or have another serving of the thing I had the other day that was really good. And it was really fun. It wasn't like, oh yeah, like lasagna again for lunch, It was,
yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty of recipes and even doing the program that she's talking about, because it's new stuff. And so one of the goals that I like to have is introduce things that you probably never had before, something you never thought about having, or even putting the combinations together. And so I've learned a lot as well, because you just like, oh, I never thought about having this at breakfast or this particular pairing. So, and again, it's just the way the different nutrients work together. It's just different ways of getting it in. So it doesn't seem so boring, like just broccoli and just chicken and just rice and just, like you said, the staples.
Right.
What were your biggest takeaways? Like what were the biggest things that you learned that you may even still incorporate today?
Oh, I think some of the biggest takeaways were eating more regularly. Not only eating 3 meals a day, which was like a big deal for me, but then also snacking throughout the day, so that by the time I got to those meals, I wasn't just so hungry. I was ready to order pizza and make myself a sundae afterwards, or
absolutely.
I was hungry and looking forward to the meal, but I wasn't so famished that all reason and logic had left my brain, and I just wanted, stuff myself.
Yes, absolutely. And many of us have like when we do something different, like you did the challenge and you did this program 30 days. And so we go in it excited and we have this all or nothing. Like we're all in, like 100%, no mistakes, no errors. So how were you able to balance that? Like and realize that, hey, we are human, and like where do you stand with the going in? Did you have the all or nothing And how do you feel about
I did. So when I did the challenge and I did the reboot and all of that, of course I was, the 3 day challenge. I was like, okay, 3 days. You can't just be all in for 3 days,
it? Yeah, that's
you know.
good.
Yeah. So I did that, and then when I did the reboot, um, I think part of it, was motivated by money. It wasn't super expensive. It wasn't that it was like a lot of money to do it. But, we were at a time where I wasn't sure what was happening with my business, and, the pandemic was, unpredictable. We didn't really know what we were facing in the next year or whatever it was. So I'm very frugal, and I'm not someone who spends my money, without thinking. And so I thought, okay, if I'm gonna pay for this, I'm gonna get the most out of it. And so I did. I was all in,
Mhm.
and I did 100%. But over time, now I've worked with you for a while, and you just know that you can't do 100% of the time.
Gotcha.
And so I think you've taught me what is it, the 80/20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing well the majority of the time, it's gonna have an impact. And so
Mhm.
you can have a day where you don't have to think about, like you go out to a restaurant, and and you actually give us the tools to make better choices when we're dining out and things like that. So it is easier to
Mhm.
look at a menu and decide what to eat. And then I think also as you start to eat really healthy and eat in more regularly in smaller portions and all of that, you get used to food feeling like fuel, right? Like you eat
Mhm.
and it gives you energy, instead of like what I was doing before, where I would eat a large meal and then I'm ready to just go like lay on the couch
Yeah.
and wait
Yes.
for my food to digest, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so looking at food differently, like, that this, if I choose this meal, it's not going to make me feel good. It's going to make me tired. It's going to make me, you
Yeah.
know, want to just lay on the couch and do nothing the rest of the evening. So,
Yeah.
I'd rather make the healthier choice. And so,
Yeah.
it is a balance, because of course we still want the ice cream and
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
but now I don't feel as bad eating it, and it doesn't make me feel as bad to eat it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
my body is just working more efficiently. My metabolism is faster, and so when you do have that, off meal that's a little higher in calories, or a little less nutritious, or whatever it is, your
Yeah.
reaction isn't the same as it was before.
Yes, yes. And what she's sharing with you, we've actually been working together one on one since 2020. And so what's different back then, we were on lockdown. So we didn't have a whole lot of distractions. We were on lockdown, and we all had a different focus and a different purpose. And now things have opened back up bit by bit. We're getting out more bit by bit. And so now different life comes in. And so I always say this is when we're tested. When everything is lined up, we're all in. We have no problems. But when we got to juggle, work demands, life demands, family demands, things that pop up that were unexpected, what do we do? And so those are the things that takes time, to work through. And that's where that 80/20 comes in, because we put so much pressure on ourselves trying to juggle the demands of life, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, I didn't work out. I worked out 4 days instead of 7. We beat ourselves up, and I'm like, no, you still did 4. Or maybe you ate good for 3 days, and a couple days you had to eat out. That's okay. You didn't just do like all eating out for 7 days, because that's normally what we do. We just, okay, I'll work out when I'm done with the crisis. And so you bit by bit you learn how to manage that. And so I got to give yourself some grace. And she's done a great job of doing that, because it's just a lot of things that life throws at us, and a lot of things we're not expecting, and a lot of things we go through we've never been through before, and so it's a lot. It's a lot. What would you say are your top 3 takeaways, or the top 3 things that we did together that you found most helpful in your success?
I think for one is the balance of not just our diet, but getting a good amount of sleep and getting exercise, scheduling your day to be successful at those things. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about like, if I want to get 8 hours of sleep tonight, what time do I need to go to bed? And so when would I need to start relaxing? And working from home and owning my own business, it's really easy to just keep working late into the night. And so, as the pandemic went on, I moved my studio into my office. And so now I can close the door on work at the end of the day and come out
Good.
into my house and relax and do things that are not as stimulating or stressful. And then I can wind down to a point where, going to bed is easier. I'm not still thinking of my big to-do list. I've made a list of the stuff I need to take care of tomorrow, and I can leave that on the desk and go relax and get ready for bed and get a
Yeah.
good amount of sleep. And so that balance of sleeping and eating regularly,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's one big thing. The other is eating more often,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that I'm having those little bridges between meals with the snacks, so that by the time I get to that meal, I'm not just famished, um,
Gotcha. Good.
making bad choices. Um, and let's see, the third thing, just how much food is medicine.
Yeah.
It really,
Awesome.
like, it fixed my body and I think the other thing that I didn't touch on as much was the balance of hormones. I think
Mm.
I think that a lot of my depression is hormonally influenced,
Yeah.
and as well as stress and trauma, things that go on in life. But yeah, so when I'm eating regularly, and I think that's one of the biggest things, eating regularly throughout the day, every day, it keeps my hormones a little bit better balanced, so
Yeah.
that I'm not having the big highs and lows and
Mm.
sugar, my body being
Yeah.
fueled and not being fueled, and then the stress of that, and that's what kind of affects my depression. And
Yeah.
so all of those things uh,
Yeah.
help
And you
keep
touched.
my food in balance.
Yeah, you touched on a really good one. Yeah, about the hormones and food, how that ties into it. Because yes, when your hormones are kind of out of balance, out of whack, I mean, it affects everything. It affects your concentration. It affects your food choices. It affects your sleep. It affects so many different things. And people don't really make that connection between food and mood. And it's a huge, huge, huge connection. And so, thank you for touching on that. I actually forgot about that also.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing just to see how things have changed for you, and it's just been amazing. So if anybody wants to chime in, I see people still on. I thank you for staying with us, because this is a very important topic, and we don't hear much about it. We all just kind of suffer, and you mentioned age. I'm getting older. I'm supposed to feel joint pain. I'm supposed to feel inflammation, and things of that nature. But no, we're not supposed to. And I'm so glad she touched on sleep, because sleep is so important, and that's one of the focal points of Body Reboot, as well as what my 101s is sleep, because sleep plays such a role in our everyday life, and we push through it. We're tired, and we just kind of push through it, and try to get through it as best as we can. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you all, she had mentioned about the recipes, and she had mentioned about things of that nature. So you have an opportunity to download. I'm going to put this information on here, a 3-day meal plan that's complimentary, and it gives you some insight on some of the recipes and things of that nature that she's speaking of, that you can try out for yourself, and see how it impacts you over a 3-day period of time. And so it's itemized. You have your grocery list, you have your step-by-step guide, but they're delicious meals. They're easy to prepare meals, and you will see that it's a variety of meals. So you're going to see carbs and fruit and different lean proteins and things like that. So hope it touches on all the food groups, and you won't see anything that's like completely omitted, which is important, because we get all of our nutrients from all the 5 food groups. And so thank you all for chiming in. And any final words of wisdom, for those who are in maybe the same situation that you're in. Maybe they feel tired all the time, or they're struggling with joint pain and inflammation, and trying to figure out how to deal with that, or just frustrated, with their weight. What words of wisdom would you have for them?
Well, I would say, grab this 3-day uh, eating meal plan. I didn't even know that was an option. I would be telling people to download that because, just 3 days, it's not 3 days is nothing. If you can, stick with the plan for 3 days and just see how it makes you feel. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's what sold me. Just 3 days, and I was feeling so different, so much better that but yeah, and you know don't feel like you have to do it by yourself. um Working with Sandra has been, it makes me feel more empowered. It makes me feel like now I have the tools to take control of my body and make it feel the way I want it to feel. It doesn't feel like I'm just out there just trying things hoping it works. Like, you know I feel like, working with Sandra now, I know what works and I can make it happen.
Mhm.
And it's very empowering.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing. That's my goal. I want people empowered so they can feel comfortable with making those informed food choices. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your
Oh,
journey, and for being so transparent. Thank you so much. And trust me, you are changing lives. You're changing mindsets. I know many people are kind of like, wow, okay. I see myself. I see myself in what you're saying because it's so relatable. I'm guilty of the same thing. I've tried so many things to get my blood pressure under control and to get my weight under control and yeah, and hope that it works.
yeah.
So I would totally relate. So to all my listeners and those who are tuning in, listening to the replay, thank you for tuning into this special segment. I hope that you found this very impactful, helpful, motivating, and hopefully that you see the possibilities in you. A lot of things that you may be dealing with that may seem normal or that's just the way it is. Maybe hopefully you'll kind of have a mind shift to say, hey, maybe things can change. Maybe things can get different, where you can, get in control of your health. Maybe you have some kind of condition you're dealing with or battling with, or weight plateaus, things of that nature, building a healthy relationship with food, getting control of those food cravings and emotional eating and stress eating. That is very, very common. And just developing some life skills and that are realistic in a way that is realistic that we want it to become natural over time. Okay. And so thank each and every one of you for tuning in. And remember to keep a positive attitude and a positive mindset. It goes a very long way in cultivating and maintaining a healthy lifestyle and self-care habits that last for life. So tune in next week, same time, same handle, and bye for now, and have a great rest of your day.